Okay, we are live here on Levels Without Limits. Now we're going to go over to Instagram and go live there too, because Instagram is special and we have to do it separately. Okay, it's starting. And now we're live everywhere. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for taking time to watch this and listen to Matt and I. I'm Amanda Marino, owner of Next Level Recovery Associates, as well as Amanda Marino Speaks. And I'm dedicated to bringing people doing great work in the world. And when you have your own platform, but some of the people I do bring on have never done a video or anything before, which is so fun to do, to be that person they feel safe with to first do it. But Matt has just such a great message, and I want to introduce you and let you introduce yourself. This is Matt Chenard.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, I'm Matt Chenard from a small town in Alberta, Canada.
Awesome.
I post videos on social media quite consistently, and I don't know if you know this, Amanda, but I originally got my traction from sitting in ice tubs and just talking to the camera. That's how I got traction on my social media.
I do ice baths, but I prefer saunas.
Yes, I prefer saunas too. I do not enjoy ice baths. Back and forth, the contrast. I was thinking of doing that today, but I digress. I help Christian entrepreneurial men gain back time, systemize a business, become more disciplined so they can have time for what matters most in their life. Serving God in any way, shape, and form, being with their family, taking care of and stewarding their bodies and minds. And then I also own a gym for the past 13 years. Awesome. And had a few successes in business and a few failures as well.
Well, the failures are lessons and opportunities, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I have a fitness background too. That's so funny. Yeah.
Okay.
I had it was called spiritual fitness, and I brought like meditation and fitness into treatment centers,
cool.
labs for when my daughter was a newborn. And so I'm a personal trainer, yoga trained, all that stuff, which I really enjoy that. I have that, but I don't utilize it for anything but myself nowadays.
Yeah.
Busy schedule. So your message started like you were in the ice tub, and what were you sharing to people?
Just random thoughts, really. I've shared this story a few times, but I'll make it short and sweet for people who might have heard it before. I started to share on social media 7 years ago, but it would take me probably 3 or 4 days to post if I posted it. So I'd come up with the idea, I'd type it all out, I'd have my wife, Jilisa, read through it, and then I look at it again and be like, okay, I'm going to post it because it seems like there's nothing wrong with it. It's clear, it's succinct. No one can judge me for this. No one can say there's anything wrong with this. And then I post it, or sometimes I wouldn't. And I didn't like this thing having power over me, this fear of judgment. So what I did is I committed to my wife, Jilisa. I said, I'm going to start posting every single day. And I started doing that about 7 years ago. And then I started using cold plunging as a modality for my health, my physical health. But then I paired that together and said, well, to myself, why don't I sit in the cold water and share videos on social media? Because that's going to invite people to judge me. That's going to invite people to say that either there's something wrong with my message, my truth I'm sharing, the truth or the principle I'm sharing, or just because it's weird I'm sitting in the ice tub. So that's what I did, because I wanted to face that fear head on, and then here we are.
I like that you knew it could bring some challenges and some maybe bad trash talk or and you went for it anyways. That's amazing, because obviously when we put ourselves out there on social media and we're in the place that you and I are obviously much more comfortable now, but you're putting yourself at risk every day to get vile things, and if you're not God-centered,
yes,
and taking care of yourself, then it's going to hit you, and so it is important for us to be able to be ourselves and feel safe. But regardless, we're gonna get the lovers and we're gonna get the haters. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, strong message either attracts or repels.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's with me. People love me or can't stand me, and I'm okay with that. Because I trust that God it will continue to bring me the people in my life that are meant for me, and will continue to remove those that aren't.
Absolutely. 100% agreed.
So I did follow your wife, and I did like one of her messages. She's lovely. You know, but she's definitely in some of the same realm I am. So that's fantastic. I can't wait to connect with her further. So how long have you guys been together and married and kids, and what do you have going on?
So we've been together. I'm 35. I'm aging myself, so I'm 35. A lot of people think I'm almost 40 because I have gray hair. That's from owning a gym during all the lockdowns. I'll say that. We have been together. We started dating when I was 17 and she was 16. So the math on that, right? So almost 20 years we've been together. We've been married for 13 years this May. We have a daughter. She's almost 2, and then we're expecting our second this June as well. So it's going to be a party.
That's amazing. So I'm 44. I'm a little older than you, and I have a 19-year-old and a 13-year-old, and then I have two bonus kids. I call them instead of
Mm.
stepkids. And now, have you and your wife been on a long? I'm just curious because I'm in this evolving spiritual journey currently. I'm actually going to send you a podcast that I did with one of my mentors just recently, and it's deep. Have you guys always stayed with your faith, or were there ever hurdles, or were there ever like things of trauma with faith, or has it something that's been a consistency in your life?
Yeah, we've been really blessed in that account because my wife's father was actually both our pastors growing up. So she's
Uh-huh.
a pastor's daughter. So we went to the
Oh,
same church. Yeah, and she told her sister when she was in grade 4 that she was gonna marry me one day, and I was too busy playing sports to even notice girls at that point, but she said, "I'm gonna marry him one day." Yeah, when she was in 4th grade.
that is.
So, yeah, we both became Christians when we were young. Uh, my story myself, I'd let my wife Jilisa to share her story a little bit, but it has been a growing and deepening of that relationship and understanding of what that is, and I think that really deepened for me when we went through all the struggles and hardships of being an entrepreneur,
Mm,
specifically a gym during all
yeah.
the lockdowns and being in a place where you've built something for 10 years and it's growing and it's becoming more successful and it's all looking like, hey, this is what we planned. This is going exactly how we want to it. And all of a sudden Jaleesa loses her 10-year nursing job. No more maternity leave. We lose all our life savings. We lose
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
ability to run our gym. Right. And it's like, okay, I, I've been a Christian. I know like this is what I believe, the truth of the gospel, but am I actually living it out? Am I truthfully living in a way that I'm sustained by my relationship with Jesus versus on the side still being like, no, I'm still okay because I have this all figured out. And then only to realize it could be gone like that. And if I've built my identity and center my life around
Yeah.
that shaky foundation, that's not good.
I mean, it's human, right? And you
Yes.
caught it, and you know, God loves us no matter what. I believe, you know. And yeah, no, when things show up like that, those hardships. Yeah, I have like during the pandemic. So I opened my company at the end of 2019, and
Okay.
so I work with people, you know, that are mentally ill, of substance use disorder, eating disorders, like hoarding, failure to launch. It just goes very broad. But you know, and my former business partner was one of he's my chosen brother, I call him. So we're still very close. So we owned it for 4 years together, and we had to pivot. All of our mentors were in their 60s. So we had to be kind of like first responders. So we were doing interventions, you know, the whole time in person.
Mm.
Florida was very open. I live in South Florida. We were open like in 6 weeks, but I remember being at Atlanta airport and there was no one in there. There was no lines. Like I was flying the whole entire time. As people, so I had to, you know, figure out how to build a business in a crisis and how to pivot to social media because I only knew building relationships face to face, you know, so that's where I leaned into social media. And I figured I got to utilize something. And somehow I built an international brand because I hope he's listening. This gentleman, Theo, in the Netherlands, when I met him at a conference in London, he's like, "Oh, Amanda Marino, I watched you open your business. I've seen you grow." I was like, "Whoa, Theo in the Netherlands knows who I am. That's pretty cool." That's the
Yeah.
power of social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that time was really, really brutal for all of us, you know, and it definitely, you know, challenged so many things and brought definitely with my stuff with mental health. People, we were so busy because it was so hard for so many people.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I know we've talked about off this live stream, my wife and her being an eating disorder recovery coach as well. And just that and everything else, this isolation, this everything getting turned upside down. I'm sure I have just a kind of a perspective from the outside, but I can't even imagine what you saw changing from all that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, we both had our deepening experiences. So do you come across people, I'm sure you do, often, that have had religious trauma?
Yes.
Okay. Just because my personal story is that, right? So
Okay.
just to be completely vulnerable, my ages 4 to 7, I was sexually molested by my sister's dad, who was I thought my dad at the time. And he was also domestically abusing my mom. And he was a church guy by day. Everyone loved him in the community, the complete sociopath, right? And then was a drug dealer, woman abuser, and sexual abuser by night. So that was my first introduction to somebody who was like, claiming to be Christian. And then I had a Buddhist godmother. And then I had my ex-boyfriend's parents tell me that she was going to go to hell because she was Buddhist. And I lost her from breast cancer, and she was like an angel in my life. So there was a few things along the way that really kind of put a bad taste in my mouth with organized religion. And I had to do a lot of healing around that. And then last year, the woman I'm going to send you the podcast on, Natasha, I went to lunch with her, and she was the first person in a very long time that made the relationship with Jesus and the Holy Spirit look attractive to me again. And so then I started reaching out to her and asking her questions and getting inquisitive. And now I'm in a group that meets once a week, and I'm comfortable talking about it. And I'm practicing things in my life, but it took it took time to heal from certain things, and obviously it's not God or Jesus or the actual teachings in the Bible. It's people, right? It's people that did the bad things. It's not, and I couldn't separate that. So
Yeah.
that's just my personal experience. I'd love your input on that.
Thanks for sharing. And that's really hard to go through. I'm sorry that you went through that. I haven't, so people have opened up to me, and I don't coach on things like that.
Right.
But this is what you said at the end there, is I absolutely agree with. People can use the title as a Christian and for evil things, right? Use this word, use this thing, and use it as a cover. And I think that what you said there at the end is they're not God, they're not Jesus, they're not. And that's the whole idea. Is like we all sin in some way, shape, or form, in some way, right? And the church is for sinners to be saved by grace through the cross.
Yeah.
And to think that you have to be perfect to go to church, or you have to have it all figured out. We own a gym. I said this before, and there's a parallel with this. Is many people will come meet with us and say, I want to start here. They're out of shape. I want to get in shape, but I want to get in better shape before I come. Well, no, that's not the point of a gym.
I've heard that from a lot of people too.
Yeah,
like I can't come to your gym because I'm not ready for it. I'm like, no, it'll be, all levels can find a way, right? And coming is a big thing. Yeah, so many people won't run with me because they think that I run too far, that I won't. They can't. I'm like, oh, run however you want. We can walk, run, But yeah, a lot of people have that thing. They want to get ready for the gym.
Yeah, and not to label, but sometimes people will use religious practices to front, to say they have it all figured out, but they don't acknowledge that they're doing these things on the inside, right? It's the people that acknowledge, like, I'm not perfect. I need Jesus. I need saving. I need a change in my life. And it's really not just too bad, but really sad that people use that, and then it prevents people from knowing Jesus, like the story you had. And I'm glad it's coming back for you, though.
Yeah, no, it definitely, I mean, it just took like so much work, like in therapy and also my own spiritual healing journey. Like I've been on a spiritual healing journey for about, 20 years, that's evolved in so many different directions. And the fact that I'm like open and I'm talking about this and I'm feeling it, it's really like just such a precious gift. And that's why, with seeing what you were doing, I just thought this was kind of like appropriate timing, because I think there are a lot of people that have a version of a story that I have, that keeps them from
Yeah.
having that relationship. And that relationship is beautiful and special, and it's growing stronger within my heart, and like I can't do there was a saying in recovery, I can't, he can, so I think I'll let him.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I know we talked a little bit about this before, but my wife and I have chatted about this. It's really hard. And then you're way more versed in this, would have way more knowledge. But what I've found from my perspective, it's difficult for people to have this transformation, this change holistically without Jesus. And I know that's for my wife has found that without having this root, this replacing, hey, these things I'm chasing, pursuing in the world with Jesus, it's really hard to have that deep transformation. But I know you could probably speak more to that than I can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of in a place where like my path maybe not be everyone's, and also the clientele I work with. Like even the things I learned in going to a 12-step fellowship for a long time, and the work that I do, I have to meet people where they are and support them where they are. And I want to, if I am a light, I want to be a light like Natasha was to me, where nothing was pushed on me or anything like that. It was her sharing her relationship, and that's something to me is attractive. And I think people can heal in many different ways. So I believe there's a lot of journeys for different people, but this is what, I'm choosing for me right now.
Cool.
Yeah. So tell me some of the work that you're doing with the men. You said men in business that are faith-based. Like tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this has been a fairly long journey for me. I started doing fitness coaching, obviously, and I started doing life coaching for men in general. And I came to a place where I could help them get in better shape, improve their marriages, improve their businesses. But when there came to this deeper purpose aspect, they needed a relationship with Jesus. And I'm not going to push that on anyone. They're paying me for a service professionally, physically, but I was offering as a service of purpose coaching. So at the time, I said I would be willing to share the gospel, willing to walk with them in that, but I wasn't going to do it in exchange for money, because I don't want to exchange money for sharing the gospel, for sharing Jesus with someone. I could talk about that. I can help Christians deepen that, right? So what I did is I shut that down, and I just started focusing on business coaching, leadership coaching. And I did that for about 4 years. And just 2 months ago, I had in 1 week 3 or 4 Christian men reaching out to me saying they would like some mentoring. They would like some coaching in business, in discipline, and just life coaching in general, business coaching. And that felt like a nudge to me. Okay, I need I need to go back into this. I need to go back into focusing on Christian men and helping them in their life and also in their business. And because I had gone to away from the life coaching for the first reason, but also because there's a lot of benefit financially to that, right? It's a very lucrative business, but I was chasing the outcome instead of chasing what I felt I'm more wired to do, and I would get deeply passionate about it. So that's why I transitioned to just recently working with Christian men entrepreneurs in both their personal and professional life. And I work with other people too, but that's mostly who I help.
That's great. And that's kind of like what I feel like has evolved as God's plan for you. Right. And it's okay, just, from my perspective, to do that and be a faith-based coach. There's, we're moving into an office, and I met a new therapist there. And he was like, yeah, I would just, so, I also am like a Christian therapist, like if you know anybody, and I get that a request often. So I think it should be the same thing for a coach. They went to school, they'll do therapy, but they also have that niche, and some people are looking for that.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah. It's nice to have that common foundation.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And so, and what is that like? It looks just different for each person, kind of like customizing the programming, or do you have a set program? Because like in the work I do, all the people are so different and from different walks. I like from ages 17, I have clients up to 80 right now. So very diverse, all walks of life. So everything looks different and everything's like a custom concierge tailored
Yeah.
plan. But with what you're doing, do you have like a set program, or do you like what does that look like?
Yeah, I do have a set program. What I found is from gathering data from working with dozens of entrepreneurs over the years, I've found that in business and life, these are the common problems that men fall into, or just business owners, is they have an out of sync team,
Mm-hmm.
they have a chaotic schedule, and they're lacking purpose in their personal life. So
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I help through what I call man on a mission, and then I help them get their team synchronized on a mission, and then I help streamline their calendar. So productivity, team development, discipline, rooting themselves in Christ, becoming more disciplined, understanding how they've been uniquely wired to thrive in the workplace. That's one of my favorite things to talk about,
Yeah.
is how we're all so different and how we're built differently to add value in the marketplace. And a prime example is my wife and I are complete opposites. I would love to go sit down at a coffee shop and just talk about big ideas, big dreams, and start 5 businesses in a year.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. My wife is, what do we need to do? When do we need to do it by? And let's get it done. Like, she'll paint the whole house in the evening. And me, I would think about, where should everything go? How would this look like? Maybe we should build a sauna in the backyard and this and that. And for a long time, I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized,
You compliment
what's
one
that?
another. You
Yes,
compliment each other. It helps.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I realize that now, but you also look at that in the workplace. And another example of that would be a young, talented, driven coach at our gym came up to me and said, "Hey, do you mind if I organize all the papers in the back office today?" I said, "Do you want to do that? Because that sounds terrible to me." She said, "Yeah, I would love to do that." Okay, you like to do that. I shouldn't feel bad giving you that. So understanding this and how we've been wired, and once you really step into that sweet spot, I call it, that zone of genius, then you don't want to retire from your work, because you're adding value and you gain energy from it instead of stealing it from yourself.
Absolutely. And so, Guy, we're so aligned on that as well. So, as a business owner, I say that we are team centered and team focused. We make sure our team is good. They're doing what they want to do, what they're best at. And at the end of the year, we even send out like a thing to like our people, like, hey, like our regular people that work with us, like, what is there something that you want to do more? Because there's so many things that we do, we offer. Like, is like some people are like doing coaching and the wellness associate, which is like a 24/7 companion. Like, do you want to do this? And some people are like, yeah, I want to try interventions this year. I want to do more of this. And Sarah, who's my managing partner now, like, she's really good at all the detail behind the scenes stuff. I'm the creative, I'm the out there
Mhm.
person, and we really complement one another. And so I want people that work with me, I don't say for me, with me,
Yeah.
to do what they're good at and what they excel at. Like when Blake left the business, he did a lot of things behind the scenes. So, and I was like, I don't want to learn those things because that's going to take away from what I'm great at. Like I was
Yeah.
clear on that. So like I hired an accounting firm, and then Sarah had already been trained in everything that Blake knew too. So like it's great when you can, like, you're what you and your wife, my partner and I are the same in the household. He's way more OCD than I am. I can leave dishes in the sink. He can't.
Yeah, it is really cool how you can complement each other. And then what you're talking about, not doing these things that maybe aren't in your zone of genius. And that's something I talk about too, is this, I want to make things as, I like taking principles, these truths that are hard to understand, and make them tangible and actionable for people. So this idea that I I want people I work with to focus more on the time, their time wealth, than the financial wealth aspect of it. Because if you're doing what you love to do with your time, you're not as focused on trying to escape work by purchasing all these different things, as an example. So creating a gap between time spent and money earned, and creating more value with your time, so that anytime you walk into the room, anytime you're in facilitating a service or adding value or creating something, you're highly impactful and have high value for your time, instead of
Yeah.
just looking for time equals money.
Yeah, yeah. I've never. I mean, I've lived in complete poverty when my son was a baby. So I mean, for probably like 6 years, like literally like food stamps, WIC, like the whole thing on Medicare, Medicaid. I had, sometimes didn't know how I was going to provide or pay my bills for a long time. I lived like that. And I've never been someone that's like, I don't chase money. I chase opportunities and I chase what feels good and what I enjoy doing and like I'm creating a retreat in Costa Rica and I'm going to create it based on what I like. I don't like rigid scheduling. So I'm only going to have scheduling certain parts of the day. And then I'm going to have offering all these different things that people can choose. And if you don't want to come to something, don't come. Because I've been to retreats where like I'm exhausted after because the
Yeah.
scheduling me. And so I like to, so yeah, it's just following the heart, following the God voice, what feels, the gut is a big thing for me and goosebumps. Like when I get goosebumps, I know something's really like aligned with me.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned your retreat. I'm going to host my first retreat this October in the mountains, doing
Awesome.
exactly what I love to do, talking about deep philosophical things, networking with men, adventuring, and heat and cold exposure. So I think that's
Awesome.
where everything lines up, right?
Yeah, definitely send me the information. I'm sure I know some men that would love to be part of that.
Sure.
Quite a few.
Absolutely.
Maybe afterwards you could put the link. I know you can on Instagram, but you could do it on like LinkedIn. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am. I'm not
Okay.
super active. I am on there. Yeah.
You could add the links to the retreat and stuff like that, and we can promote that for you. Yeah, mine is going to be in February of next year because it's beautiful.
Okay.
I've been going to Costa Rica by myself for a week for 2 years in February, which is just been so amazing and incredible. There's just so much nature and beauty. It just feels like such a spiritual land. So I really enjoy the place there. And now I like have friends that I've met because like when you go alone, you make friends, especially for me. I talk to everybody everywhere. It drives my children and sometimes my partner crazy because like I make friends everywhere I go and I'm at the airport, I'm talking to everybody. My kids are like, Mom, why do you gotta make friends with everybody? Like,
Yeah, we're built differently in that way. I would be more introverted. I would I like the deeper conversations with people I know and trust, but so I applaud you people that can go and do that. My wife's dad is exactly like that. He can go start up a conversation with anyone and
yeah,
anywhere. Pretty
I
cool.
don't, it's not like a plan or intentional thing. It's just who I am in my heart. And so I've had to also learn how to protect my heart because I
Right.
was loving and trusting of everybody. And I realized, oh, wait, not everybody has the same motives and intentions I do. So I
Yeah.
have to protect my heart. And really like the people that God has placed in my life in the past like year, 2 years, 3 years and removed, like it has been definitely for the best. And that was a really hard thing for me. I was attached to people. Like if you were in my heart, I want you to stay forever. But I do believe fully that like I'm so blessed. Like I have the best people in my life that I could never even have dreamed of, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I let go of the chase. Like I was chasing people. Like, why don't you want to hang out with me? Why are you so distant? And like, I'm not doing that anymore. Oh no, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, you be you in that way and let people go when they need to go. And
Yeah, that's a hard process though. Like when you get attachment and abandonment issues, to just be like, yeah, yeah, sure, go. Like somebody's been in my life for 20 years, and now we're not in each other's lives. That was a hard thing for me. I would really grieve that, and I feel like now I feel an internal peace of acceptance.
hmm.
You
So what
know,
was the shift for you in that? How did that change happen?
a lot of work on myself. Working on myself. I believe my connection with God and truly trusting that and kind of observing it more than chasing it and like getting real brokenhearted I've been brokenhearted way more by friends than I have been any man. And so I had to take a look at that and like, why is this a common theme, for me when people come or go? And I sit back and I observe and I'm just so grateful for what God does for me that I can't do for myself.
That's
That's,
powerful.
yeah. Yeah.
I've found for myself once because that would have been approval part of me is not wanting to post because I was afraid what people might think or what they might say, but then realizing that I'm already accepted and approved of in Jesus in God, right? I'm already loved enough through him. I don't have to go chase these things. I don't have to find anything in this world that is already provided through that relationship. So I'd say I've kind of gone through somewhat of a similar, not, I don't think to the extent, but it's that truth has been becoming more and more real to me.
And I think anybody watching this that has either intentionally built a social media following, or like mine was not intentional, but I've harnessed it because it's, you know, it's great. Obviously, especially in my world, behavioral health, I was like way ahead of the game. Like there's some people that didn't even have social media accounts that have been around forever. So I was scared to make my first reel. So like my former business partner sat with me and made my first reel. And sometimes we need that support. And I used to be scared to, like, if people really know me, or I feel like they're not gonna like me, they're gonna hate me. Like I had that messaging that I had to undo as well, you know, being bullied as a child. And then I've been definitely bullied online a lot. But you know, now it just doesn't even hit me. Thank
That's a
God.
nice place to get to. It's a really nice place to get to. I mean, I wouldn't say that 100% things don't bother me, but honestly, so one of my reels went viral and it had a voiceover of someone talking about some data, some information about cold plunging that involved Michael Phelps that actually wasn't true. And I didn't know that. And it went viral and it got 10 million views. And then all these comments started coming in, and not like they're arguing about the validity of all this and stuff, and saying some really nasty things about me, which doesn't make sense. But in saying that, it didn't actually bother me. But we're walking in the mountains, my wife and I were a weekend away, and all of a sudden I get a notification. Michael Phelps commented on your post. I was like, oh no.
Did you have you looked at my page? I just hosted an event with his sister in DC last week.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I'm friends
I
with
didn't.
Hillary. I'm friends with Hillary.
Oh, amazing. And he was really nice on it. He's like, this stuff isn't true. And I was like, it's not me talking, but people are
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not I'm not a stranger to people, and like saying like you can't be whatever percent body fat, or you're this or that. I was like, I don't even know what these people are talking about anymore. Like saying things like your wife is probably with some other guy in Hawaii. I was like, well, she's right beside me, so that's not true. I don't know what you're talking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to be honest, there was a time about a year ago where, because I did the TV show Intervention, and some
Right. Yeah.
people support that show because listen, it gives people, and I'm talking to the producers, incredible humans, all the camera people. I mean, they were crying. They were like, everybody was like all into this. And then what they don't know, like the people, behind the scenes, behind the cameras, they ask us, and they ask us our opinions, our advice. I told them I won't do anything that I would never do. I have to be able to be myself and be how I would with any client, or I can't do this. And they totally supported that. But some people have, judgments on that show and think that it's, taking, whatever with people, but they're getting access to like 90 days and like really quality treatment programs, like places that may cost like 60,000, 90,000 to do 90 days. And some of these people are living in drug houses, trap houses, or in tents. So it really gives people an opportunity, like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and the family, because they do work with the family. And I stayed in touch with everyone I worked with on the show, as well as when I worked on the digital addiction show. That one only made it one season because in 2021, America wasn't ready to admit we have a digital problem here. There's some digital disorders. So that only made it one season. But yeah, when that show came out, people warned me, that friends of mine that have been on it for a long time, they were like, be ready. I mean, I was getting crazy things sent. And then I had a few things in different directions coming at me. And that's when I felt like, okay, this is the one too many. I'm human. You know what I mean? Like, this is too much.
Yeah.
I had to take a break every, when I need to. Took a break, took some time to reflect, pray, get good with it. And then something happened with my 12-year-old daughter. She got a bully note. I was terrified for her to start middle school. So I didn't travel. My kids have known me as a traveling mom since they've been little. I didn't travel from August when school started till the new year. And she got all honor roll. And then she got that note right before I started traveling again. And it was like, you're a hoe. She's never even kissed a boy. She's terrified of that. You know, your dad probably beats you, and then some other terrible things. And at the bottom it said, and you should probably go and kill yourself. Nobody would even care. And as a mother, I was like, oh, I was like, I had those notes. Okay. I had people saying those things to me in fourth, fifth, sixth grade, right? A hoe. And imagine that to a girl that's sexually abused. Like, I believed that I was dirty and damaged and broken anyways. But my daughter has had a different upbringing. She was upset for about 5 minutes. We FaceTimed her dad and we talked about it, and she sat with it and she goes, you know what, Mom? I feel really bad for the person that like took time to write this. She goes, they must be really hurting inside, and I'm going to pray for them. And she let it go, and it's never even phased her since then.
That's
she taught me
a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
And how old?
12.
That's incredible, because it'd be one thing if it was a small like misunderstanding, but that's a major thing. Pray for the person.
Her name and her spelling, and she spells it different than everybody else. So it was for sure for her. But she didn't take that on. She refused it, and she said she prayed for them. That's how she handled it. And she's also been my little, like this Sunday, Mother's Day, I was like, if you wake up, because we were up late Saturday, I said, if you wake me up, we'll go to church. Sure enough, she woke me up. Her goal on her own was to develop a closer relationship for Jesus for the new year. Isn't that beautiful?
That is. So is that like a recent change, or has it always kind of been her personality, or what do you think that has been the catalyst to that?
That's her little divine. I mean, she's definitely emotionally intelligent. I've been able to raise her and my son in a way that I wasn't raised, you know. We try to change and do better and learn. Like, my mother is an amazing person and was an amazing mother, and just was in a situation that was terrible, but her life was being threatened every day, you know. And we did get away, and then he did come back and kidnap my sister. Once we had a restraining order, he kidnapped her on lawn maintenance day and took her out of the country. So like all those things I went through from 4 to 7, like my children have not been through any kind of like trauma, and they've never been around, you know, substance use or anything like that. So to see how a not healthy child can handle that stuff just gives me so much hope, you know? But yeah, she's very wise. Like, my friends like to hang out with her and everything. She's very wise, very sweet, smart, thoughtful. She has a deep, deep heart. You know, her grandfather is struggling with his health right now. Hospices came in, and, you know, she's really emotional, and she's checking on everybody. And like, she's the youngest, and she's like checking on everyone the most in the family, you know. She just has it in her. It's the God in her.
That's really cool. Yeah. I could think of myself. I don't think I'd be that quick to instantly do that. I like to think I would, but that's amazing. I don't know if you've noticed this too, but there's been like a shift in the younger generation, like coming back to God, and just people going on big podcasts like Andrew Huff, I think, and just these, Jesus is moving. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it is really cool to see. And like, this was all her own. She started buying like Jesus merch. She has like a sweatshirt, like all this stuff. And I never said anything to her about where I was on my journey yet, because it was kind of like figuring it out. And she told me my goal for, you know, the new year is to have a closer relationship with Jesus. And I was like, who are you?
That's amazing.
Give me some of that. So we're doing it together. So we're going to go. Yeah, we're doing that. We're in this together, my little girl and I. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, praise the Lord in that.
Yeah, it's all His doing. So it's beautiful. So what do you have? Like, what you have the retreat coming up? Like, what's going on? What's going on next? Like, well, how can people, you know? Is there a message that you want to send something? Like, if you had one thing you could share with people, what would it be? So it's a few questions.
Yeah, I wasn't breathing because there was a few. I was breathing because that's a good question, and I'll try to work my way into it. So I work with a handful of people at a time virtually. If they're around me, I'll work with them. I do it in a group setting, but basically helping you create a gap between time spent, money made, so you can spend it in service, in growing the kingdom, using your business to grow the kingdom. And just this thought in my head recently, I was listening to Tim Tebow on the Sean Ryan podcast. And he's talking about human trafficking and all that stuff. And
Ugh.
just this thought process of, I think it's really important to create really strong entrepreneurs, God centered Christian entrepreneurs that are going to create businesses that can financially bless movements like that. I think we really need, because there's people on the ground, there's people working for that, but they need money, right? And there's talented people that God has given them visionary abilities and ways to create things, create money, create organizations. I think the bigger part of what I want to do is help leaders build businesses so they can support things like that, and myself too, and really push myself. Like, how do you support those things? How do you help those things? Because we can be upset about it, but if we're not doing anything, then we're just being upset about something we're not actually pushing towards. So I think, all in all, my main message would be for people not to live in fear of judgment, because God doesn't give us a spirit of fear, right? Fear doesn't come from him. It we it's a slow, I'm gonna try to articulate this the best I can. I see it, this fear that prevents action with things you know you should be stewarding, your time, your gifts, your talents, your story. Because like you said, like, the painful stories really resonate with people and they need to hear it. They need to hear these things. But the further you push that conviction of needing to take action, the easier it becomes, and you're wasting time. And before you know it, you wake up and, like, oh, I was trying to reach this end destination of whatever it is, retirement, whatever you think this ideal, this utopia is in your life, but you missed all these opportunities to actually steward what God's given you. So take that one step of action, the courageous step that makes you a little fearful, that gives you goosebumps, that you like, I know I should do this. This is on my heart. I feel like God's pushing me in this way. Just do that one thing, then do it again, then do it again. You don't know where it's going to lead. Like, there's no way I would have known that hopping into an ice tub 7 years ago, whatever it was, with 12 people on average watching my videos, would afford me the opportunity to speak to you, Amanda, and talk
Yeah.
to people about Jesus. Like,
Yeah.
my videos have accumulated tens of millions of views, and most of them I talk about Jesus. And there's no way I could have written that. So we need to stop thinking that we can control everything, for one, but
Amen.
just step with courage every single day. It doesn't have to be big, because God will use those small things for big movements in the future.
Yeah, it's so funny. As you started to say, like, talk, I was like thinking, yeah, fear is what holds many people back. And I remember when I went on my own, people were like blown away because, like, I was in a career, I was in a career path for a while. They're like, "Aren't you scared? And how did you do it?" And I'm like, honestly, there's nothing special. All right, okay, like, yeah, I do have my own special God-given gifts, right?
Right.
But between me and anyone, I just had a vision and a dream, and I was scared and I did it anyways. And that's what I tell people: be scared, but do it anyways. And like, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? For me, the worst thing that could happen was I had to go back and get a job. That to
Yep.
me that's not a bad thing, And I talk to so many people that like have these dreams and they just don't move forward, or they're in miserable situations and they stay in it. Like, we don't have to do that. Like, we can be brave and follow, our hearts and yeah, it's just definitely been a profound thing for me. I used to think I used to use the word manifest a lot, but I believe that God, saw my diligence and saw my heart and provided so many great things for me. I think I showed up and did the work, but I do believe that God has created everything that I have today.
Yeah. God's the provider of everything good. He gives us
Yeah.
everything
I
good.
could not. Listen. I recently went to I have a psychiatrist that I work with sometimes, and he sometime one day a week he works at a forensic psych hospital. The people that are in there, most of them went through things like I went through as a kid, and they're in a forensic psych hospital for 20, 30 years. That's where they live. Like, that could be me. I mean, I could be dead many times now. I could, from the things that I've done, and here I am. I was least likely to succeed. The town mess up. Like, if you said my name, I remember my sister going out into local areas after, I had retired and got my life together. And she would get, people would want to fight her because she was my sister. Like I was that
Really?
bad. Oh yeah. I was a troubled teen, troubled young adult, but I was done by 26. So thank God for that.
How important do you think it is that people share their stories?
It's everything. I can't tell you how many people that I've shared my story with or just put it out there on, say, on a platform or on a stage or whatever, that people come up to me and tell me things they've never told anyone, and how that's keeping them so hurt, so stuck, believing those false beliefs. Like I truly believed I was dirty, damaged, broken because I was abused. Nobody would want me. I also believed everybody would hurt me and leave me. And I also believed that, people that went through what I went through were meant to live messed up lives. And it just chalked it up to that. And I really believed that to my core. So
Right.
one day I was like, wait, why am I hurting myself? Because I was hurt. Like that makes no sense anymore. And so I started to, work through that process. But people need to hear your truth. If you're not comfortable doing it on a public platform, you know what I mean? Do it amongst like some close friends. Do it, and if you are comfortable with getting on a public platform, like me sharing my stuff on LinkedIn back in the day, like it just would get so much attention because nobody else was talking about mental health or
Right.
having problems with substances or anything along those lines, or trauma. And people would DM me, I've never told anybody this. I've never told anybody, so those kind of things are just so powerful to me, of what we can do by sharing our truth and sharing our story.
Yeah, I think it's important for us not to put a specific outcome on something, right? And to just steward our story because we know we should steward it, share it because we know it's going to impact the one person. And that's all you have to care about. And I encourage my wife, I don't think she's watching too, but I want her to share her story more because I know it's so impactful. She told me that eating disorder is one of the most deadly mental illnesses from what I
It's the
understand.
it's the hardest, because I'll tell you, when they're the clients that we work with, it's the most difficult. It's way more challenging than substance use disorder
Mm.
because you have to eat
Yeah.
to, it is a very challenging, and it takes like a whole village. Like when we do it, we have a dietitian, a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, and then we have people that, like, we do plating with, like, do food meals with them, so watch them, what the diet is. So it's very, very complicated, and it's definitely, it's a really, really hard one.
Yeah. And I got to experience that firsthand. Like I knew her before she was struggling with this and we first got married when she had it. And yeah, it's all consuming. And I didn't really know the extent it could go. And we thank God that she helped, like that he was there with her and that she's helping others. But to share that story, to know that it is possible, I think it's really important. And not just to my wife, not just talking to my wife,
Yeah,
but
no, and
to
that is the fact that she is open about that now. She's going to help so many people, that are feeling alone. Like I'd love to have her on one time and talk about it, because I love that piece too. Because I
fantastic.
haven't I haven't experienced that with mine. Mine started like I had some body dysmorphia issues and a little bulimia, like touch of bulimia, when I was trying to
Yep.
do a fitness show, because my dad was a fitness competitor. So I wanted to do a show in his honor when he passed away. And that rigidity triggered stuff in me
Yeah.
that started to spiral, and I was able to catch it. And, I saw a specialist for a while, and I was able to catch it. And now, I'm positive body love. I don't let, if I want to eat a cookie. I have a background in alternative medicine and nutrition, so I
Mm.
generally eat healthy and exercise. But if I want to have cake, I'm not going to like be angry at myself, and I'm not going to try to
Right.
do a fitness competition. It's not for me. I support my friends, but not for me.
Yeah, some of us, we can't go to places that there's a lot of that temptation or do things like that. And I think what you're saying before, and I was telling Jilisa this, is I believe it's one of the hardest things just from my secondhand experience, because substance abuse, we know it's not good, but exercise, it's praised. Discipline, it's praised. Like, so a lot of people, like I grew up in the athletic world, I grew up around people in the gym. A lot of people are addicted. Like it's a lot easier for people to go to the gym than take a break.
Oh, I used to, if I missed a day, I was so hard on myself. Sometimes I would do 2 a days. And if
Yeah.
I didn't do it, I would be, if I, but literally it doesn't, if you miss a day, it doesn't change anything.
No, it doesn't.
If you miss a week, your body gets rest and then you get to recharge. Like people don't understand these. And I was definitely stuck in that for a long time. Like beat myself up, now I if I wake up and I feel good, I'll go to the gym. If I feel icky and like my body needs rest, I listen to it and I take rest.
That's a nice place to be in. And I would say I'd had some sort of exercise addiction and body dysmorphia in an opposite direction. So I would have worked out a lot, gained muscle, but I would have been addicted to it too. So it's not just ladies that struggle with it either.
No, I have a good friend that I made him come on my live. His name's Tim, and he's a personal trainer and a dear friend of mine. And he, his story is his eating disorder and body issues would bring him back to drugs and drinking every time. Like that was his core. And I'm like, you are a shredded man. I need you to come on this live and share that with people, because you're going to help a lot of men come out of that shame. Because it's a very shame-based thing too. Like I was more comfortable saying I was, had problems in the past with substances than I had, eating disorder issues. Like it's a very shameful thing. And it's hard to explain, unless you've like fully gone through it, but I'm sure people can relate that are watching, but men struggle with it too, it's not women.
Yeah. And it's the thing that's hidden, right? Again, because I said, like I was saying before, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to work out. It's a good thing to eat healthy. And it's difficult when people see something's wrong there and they try to speak truth to it, because then you can say, well, no, actually, this is good. It's good. This is praised. Yeah, it's difficult. So grateful that Jilisa's recovered and helping other people now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And listen, if I would never wish that experience on her or mine on me. However, we now have passion and purpose, and we can help other people with our story and our experience, and then also our training and education, to be like if I didn't go through the things I went through, I wouldn't be doing this as a career path.
Right. Yeah.
I do. When I hear that a woman is, I'll be fully open. Like a woman I work with that may have been raped or may have had experienced abuse or domestic violence or any of the things, like I can relate. My heart can feel that for them, and that's important. And hearing me talk about, like, sometimes it makes other people feel uncomfortable when I say it, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, like I'm at peace with it. I'm not like that. I think it was okay, but I'm not going to let it carry me down, and I'm going to use it to help others.
Yeah. It gives you empathy, trust, and authority in that situation. Like I couldn't coach the way my wife does because I haven't gone through it. I could coach a support system and be like, this is how to go through it, but I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't have that experience. And sometimes we might not see what that is doing or what that ripple effect of us going through something challenging is.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually something comes out of it, whether I see it or not. There can be good, and especially if you step out with courage, like we're talking about. Don't be afraid. Share your story. Look to serve, because courage isn't a feeling that you feel. It's what people see someone else doing despite the fear they feel. So taking action despite the fear you feel is courage.
Yeah, I so relate to that. Like, being scared and doing it anyways is kind of really, it's the way I say it.
That was much more succinct. I like that better.
Yeah, it's because it's so true. It can be crippling, and we want to see, you live your journey and path. One thing I want to ask you before we wrap up, to go back, when you said with the business coaching, like helping them to have it be kingdom based or faith based, like, can you talk more about, like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've had that question a lot. So I believe the culture follows the character of the leadership team. So I first focus on the individual, the CEO, the entrepreneur, and I help them ground themselves, root themselves in Christ, and take care of themselves, become more disciplined, deepen their relationship with the Lord. And then as an extension, these core values, these principles influence their business, and they build the business on biblical principles. Oh, Tim Keller, the late Tim Keller. He had a podcast talking about what the kingdom actually is, and that the kingdom is like an operating system of sorts. And I like that because I'm a systems-based guy, and one of my things I help people with is build systems. And it's a way of showing up in the world. Love, kindness, gentleness, self-control, like all the fruit of the spirit, and building your business around that on strong, and I should say this, strong morals, not doing anything that is not right against the law, and really, yeah, and doing it for impact over profit. You need a profitable business to serve your clients, but you should never mitigate your impact, mitigate or take a shortcut for profit if it's going to take away your ability to impact and serve and steward and further the kingdom.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And definitely apply that in mind. I will turn away someone in a second if I don't think that we're the right fit. Even if it's the biggest possible client, like I want to do the next right thing always.
Yeah.
When it comes to, especially with the work we do, it's like really heavy stuff. And if I take on something my team is not the right fit for, that's just not even, it's not okay.
Well, they have experience too, right? So
do you have a website?
I do. It's being updated. So I would recommend, if people want to connect with me, Matt Chenard at Instagram or on Instagram. I reply to all my DMs there.
It's just your name. Okay.
Just my name. Yep.
On Instagram. Okay. To find. Any last message you want to just share before we close out?
Yeah, I think just take that step and do that thing that's been on your mind that you feel like God's been leading you to do, because you'll begin to justify not doing it tomorrow, again, the next day. It doesn't have to be a big thing either. It could be one step, but things compound. Things compound over time, and eventually, before you know it, your life will look completely different because you did that one thing. You sat in the ice tub, you talked to a friend, you had the hard conversation, you started to become curious about that business idea, you sent a nice message to someone encouraging them. Just do that one thing today.
Love that. And remember that you're always guided and protected by God,
Yep. Amen.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your life, and please tell your wife that I said hello, and I look forward to connecting with her further. And thank you so much for your time. And we did start before with prayer, so I think this was fully God-led, and just really appreciate you. And yeah, this is Levels Without Limits. I'm Amanda Marino. You can find me at Amanda Marino Official. Actually, you can probably find me because you're on all of my platforms right now. But thank you so much, Matt. I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to come off Instagram. And I'm going to end the stream here. Bye.